And now we are all set for a 15-minute talk on up-to-date clinical decision support systems. These tools are revolutionary. But what do these terms mean? And how do they impact patient outcomes? And to throw light on this topic, I request Mr. Varun Belgudri to kindly take us ahead with this session.
I think I always enjoy giving these message from the sponsor, talking about the marketing ROI, but at the same time, I think I'll try to keep this short. While we are at Wolters Kluwer and trying to, I would say, bring a lot of solutions from a scientific engagement standpoint, I do want to cover 5 things, and I'll breeze through the first 2. The first is a little bit about ourselves and what we stand for and what we have done so far. Where do we belong from, and how we are actually trying to shape some of the way we are thinking about content. We did a market study, a little bit about that. The third thing is, people have heard a lot about UpToDate in this audience. I think we do want to talk about how we are, I would say, going towards the trends that people see in technology, like Gen AI and things like that. And we have something exciting to talk about that as well. And the fifth one is quite interesting. And I think some of the panelists did discuss about what is usage, what is satisfaction, and sometimes are they interrelated? And we want to give a content perspective to that. So we first start with a short 30 or I think 50-second video, and then I get into that.
For 30 years, UpToDate has been by your side, closing the gap between question and answer, between insight and decision, between clinician and patient.
The urgency to get it right is just core to our culture. You can never drop the ball. You have to be trustworthy.
Over the past 30 years, UpToDate has become the standard for evidence-based clinical decisions. And yet, our work is far from done. As long as students and residents continue learning, as long as there are variations in the quality of care, as long as clinicians have questions, we'll be right by your side.
So I think when we talk about Wolters Kluwer, right, I think before a lot of people might not know us by that particular name. People might know us by this Lippincott name and sometimes UpToDate as well. But think about Wolters Kluwer as a house of brands, and in 5 different verticals. So one is health, the other is accounting, legal, regulatory and compliance, corporate finance, and ESG is one of our latest. So when we look at this company, this is a Dutch-based company, has existed for about 185 years, been inside this business, has constantly, that length shows that it has lived by a certain set of values and try to innovate for its end customer as well, and the consumer. Over the last few years, I think we have been able to also ascertain what we are. So we are a professional information service provider, and within health, it spans clinicians, students, research organizations, healthcare experts, and products that are trying to solve quite a few problems in those areas as well. From a numbers point of view, I think this is a 5.5 billion euro company out of Netherlands. We do have about 22,000 employees across the world, and India is the second largest employee base after the United States. So that's an interesting tidbit to know. Having said that, I think let me jump in to the case study that we did, and this is something that we did about 1.5 years ago. Perhaps some of you have heard about this earlier. So we did this with one of our big 4. And our objective was to trace how scientific information is discovered and specifically from the point of view of an HCP. Now, for us, this was an important fact to know, and what we did is we did a bunch of research, about 50 hours of conversation, 4,000 doctors, 8 different specialities, and interestingly, what we have found out is doctors typically triangulate information from different sources. I think from a credibility standpoint, it plays a pretty big part. So the person who is right next to you or who you respect, your peer, is at times one of the first go-to person. Apart from this, the feedback that we received, and we received feedback on 3 different angles. One was that at the time of need, it was important to understand that concise, and perhaps the word precise can be also used, concise and precise information. Now, having said that, I think to be concise is easy, but at the same time, to get that precise, you need to have some credible sources, right? So this was one particular element where we felt that one of our solution fits right in there. And I'll talk about where we fit in as well. One is having a source which is extremely easily palatable, is able to distill different vastness of the sources of information that are available, and the clinician has to digest all of this. The second one was to get into depth, and that meant perhaps getting into clinical trials, sometimes clinical research papers, and getting into understanding certain sometimes nuances towards the judgment as well. So, and the third thing that we came about was that doctors have been extremely time poor, so they need it right now and at their fingertips, at the point of care, at the point of research. And this information, one more element that we realized was that from a doctor's journey, right from the student to becoming an expert or a specialist, or right into becoming a key opinion leader, or becoming a person who creates clinical guidelines, uses information in a different manner. Now, to understand that piece, we have started another clinical research which is spanning a similar set of doctors, even perhaps even higher, and understanding how the information sources could be relevant. And I do feel that this is extremely useful from a marketing standpoint, because these insights help us shape our products, but these insights are also helping perhaps certain marketeers think through what could be, from a scientific standpoint, important to a particular person, a particular HCP, and perhaps at different specialities, chronic versus acute, what could be that nuances about such information. With shifting gears towards one of our solutions, and I think we saw a video at the beginning of the presentation. UpToDate has been there for a while, and it has taken a lot of effort over the years. A lot of contributors have contributed and made it a credible resource for us, right? It has a user base of about 3 million users, and this means there's a bunch of information for us to consume, analyze, what are the doctors looking at, what are the different geographic trends happening across the world. Are there specific scenarios building up in certain geographies about certain disease areas? So these are all the insights that we are able to get because of the volume of information available on UpToDate. Now with that, I think we always keep improving our content, and 4 major areas which were brought about or are brought in focus. One was primary care. I think at every HCP's level, he is or she is involved in delivering some sort of primary care to the patient, right? So having that information more concise, easily accessible, at the fingertips and immediately visible. So instead of taking, let's say, 60 seconds to go to an information, can we reduce it to 10, 20 seconds? So that's how that content summarization happens. The second thing is there is an increasing interest in radiology. And then similarly, now we have about 6,000 different images of radiology inside that. We have made the content more graphical, and it means that people can look at their algorithms much easier. And across the world, the most important topic that has come up is mental health. And mental health increasingly is becoming an important factor, especially an HCP has to deal with and across all therapy areas. And that's why that is also in focus. Now, when we look at, I think we don't have that particular slide, but I will talk about the AI labs that is continuous, that is something that we have launched. Now, before I get in there, all right. So before we get into the whole AI concept, right, I would like to differentiate between AI and Gen AI. AI has always been driving and has been around for many years, and back-end technologies have improved because of that. I think with the I would say introduction of Gen AI that happened very short while ago, it did conflict, and people really loved the way AI talked to us, but we also realized that AI was hallucinating. One thing that Wolters Kluwer lives by, and this is something that is there in all of our products, is when you have to be right, you need to trust Wolters Kluwer. So when something is going to hallucinate, it might not fit the tagline, it might not fit the brand promise that we want to deliver. Having said that, 1.5, maybe about 1 year ago, we brought in an AI labs feature which was trained on this up-to-date set of content, and we started experimenting it in the experimental space with certain customers in the United States. We started giving Gen AI results and conventional results side by side to create that efficacy training across different specialities and then evolve that particular product. Now, couple of things that has helped us by using this is we have been able to cut down the time required for a doctor to get to their information. So that is one clear benefit. The other benefit, and I think this is something which was being spoken about from a patient centricity standpoint, Gen AI allows you to ask a very specific question, and that interpretation can lead to a very specific answer. So a patient-centric question leading to a patient-centric answer is one of the other benefits. And there are, 5 years down the line, I did have a chance to attend one of the product sessions, and this is not the end. I think Gen AI is going to evolve perhaps into an ambient technology and so on and so forth. But right now, this is a product that is going live in another couple of quarters. It is available. It's going to be available in the United States and being delivered across the world. So we are pretty excited about this, and I think especially in the world of Gen AI, when we are trying to look at credible sources of information, something that is trained on up-to-date, I think has a lot of value. The last concept that I do want to talk about, and perhaps a couple of minutes I'll take, is the differentiation between satisfaction and usage. I think people did talk about a lot of programs that they are trying to drive. You're doctor-centric, you're patient-centric. People do want to measure the efficacy, especially things like how many patients you have enrolled, how many doctors have you enrolled, how many times has that doctor come and sat on your platform and clicked on different buttons. So we are polluted, or rather we think about many of these initiatives with that Facebook and LinkedIn and e-commerce, Amazon, Flipkart kind of mindset. But when it comes to delivering credible content, right, we found an example in Japan. Japan is one of the largest customer outside United States for up-to-date. Usage typically is average to low. They continue to pay us more every year. And we are here trying to pull our hair out. And this is something that affected us as well. We are trying to understand, hey, usage is not that high, but they are willing to pay us more. What's really going on? We started measuring the NPS. And what we realized, and one of the NPSs of UpToDate is I think about 80 plus, where in an NPS score, a 60 plus is considered to be extremely awesome. UpToDate ranks 80 plus, and in many of the specialities that it deals with. So satisfaction was linked towards, the high NPS rather, was linked towards being there at the time of need. Having that 1,000 doctors in your pocket or having that access to that information in itself was driving satisfaction. So when it comes to looking at scientific engagements, I would suggest that do look at what kind of credibility it is bringing in, what kind of empowering the practice it is bringing in. So that is why I just want everybody to differentiate between usage and satisfaction. Sometimes they're independent. So these are the 5 topics that I was trying to cover. Some of the things that have been said about UpToDate people know. And thanks for the time, and thanks PSA for this slot as well.